let's start with a lesson, eh? Now, bootlegs often have a bad rep, and understandably so. After all, nobody wants a knockoff of a real product, right? But while people tend to dismiss bootlegs as shit, I can't help but find some of them interesting, especially when it comes to bootleg games. Now, bootleg games are, well, as the name says, knockoff games made in places like Taiwan and then sold in territories where old consoles are still supported. These games are made on the cheap and tend to be cheap sprite hacks or just plain shit. But even if they are shit, some of them do still make for interesting conversations. Which brings me to the topic of this video, Somari. Now, Somari is a port of Sonic 1 on the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive for the NES or Famicom. It was supposedly released around the 1994s and it was developed by Hummer Team. Hummer Team is probably one of the more well-known bootleg game developers, and for good reason. Even if their games don't hit most of the time, they're still leagues above most of the other competition you'd see in bootlegs, especially for the NES. If there's one thing you can't deny about their games is that they truly did try and put effort into what they had, and Somari is no exception. Somari is certainly an interesting game, to say the least. It's basically Sonic 1 but with Mario instead, and on the NES. And shit. But I think it's worth more than just that. It's not going to be good, but as I said before, there's just something interesting about these type of demakes. After all, it's not like many popular YouTubers tend to talk about these bootlegs, and even when they do, it goes as a little something like Sonic, he's a blue fast hedgehog, the rival to Mario, and he also kissed a human. Today, we'll be talking about Sonic bootleg crap. First up, Somari. Let's do this. Oh no. But that's not how I roll, so let's give Somari a fair shot, huh? As I said before, Somari is a port of Sonic 1 on the Mega Drive for the NES. I'm assuming most of you know how Sonic 1 works, but just to be safe, it's basically a platformer where you sometimes go fast, and you basically collect rings to not die in one hit. Sonic 1 works in 3 act structures, with the final act having a boss in the end. You can also collect 50 rings and reach at the end of the stage for an emerald. Get all 6 of them and you get a slightly different cutscene. Oh, holy shit. It's also kinda shit, but that's basically Sonic 1. So, how's it fare on the NES? Well, aside from the obvious replacement of Sonic with Somari, it's actually recreated pretty well. To start with the positives, you still have all of the zones and acts here, except for Scrap Brain, but that was the worst part of the original, so good. They even got the special stages here. Though these are pulled from the 8-bit version of Sonic 1, these are still a nice inclusion, but there are no Chaos Emeralds, so your only real benefit is getting a higher score, and I'm pretty sure nobody cares about that aside from arcade games. Graphically, this game fares pretty decently for the NES. The environments are pretty well done for a bootleg, and they're also recreated pretty faithfully from the original game. Though I have to say, the color choices are a bit off, mainly at Green Hill. Who the hell was looking at the act screen and went, yes, we need pink? There's also a fair amount of flicker, but that's not something that's really gonna get in the way of the gameplay because while the game structure and graphics were ported faithfully from the original game, the same cannot be said for the gameplay. Starting with the big one, the controls. While Sonic 1 did have some pretty poopy parts, you still had a sense of speed there in some places. In Somari, you don't really get to feel that because of how wonky the controls are. It's hard for me to really describe, but Somari doesn't really have any real sense of momentum. Constantly find yourself losing your momentum whenever you jump, you go faster uphill than downhill, you can't roll down hills, and dare forget to mention the jump is really unresponsive. Like seriously, it makes stuff like getting over a platform harder than it has any right to be. But wait, there's more. While Somari is a port of Sonic 1, just for some reason you have access to the spin dash, but good luck getting any use out of it because it doesn't kill enemies at all, and you can't even destroy monitors with it. You're basically trapped using the spin dash and you can't even jump out of it or stop rolling, so you're just asking to get hit by enemies. And as if the game already wasn't hard enough, they didn't even account for the NES's resolution being smarter than a Mega Drive. So you have constant, and I mean constant cases of enemies just bombarding you off screen, respawning, and not to mention the constant leap of fates around Starlight. While Sonic 1 has its fair share of problems, I at least had some sense of speed and control there, and tomorrow you get like 2 seconds to be fast before getting hit by an enemy. And then there's also level design. While it's not bad or god awful, aside from the bombarding enemies, some sections will just repeat in different acts, which makes the levels just drag on sometimes. And what doesn't help this game any further is that it's just a buggy mess overall. I know it's a bootleg, I shouldn't expect much, yada yada, but it really is boggling to me. Constantly find yourself getting stuck on ledges, you go through loops and miss a ring, sometimes you can just even pass through spikes, and labyrinth zone. Oh my god, this damn zone. It's not too bad at first. Sure, the water makes you slow down to a crawl and these spike balls are annoying, but I generally felt like I had better control Somari in the water than on the ground. They're just one slight problem, the bubbles. See, in Sonic 1, when you enter the water, you would have 30 seconds before this anxiety-inducing countdown starts, indicating you would drown. This is why the zone has bubbles spread throughout, to refill your oxygen. To its credit, Somari does the same as well, even giving you more time to stay in the water. But there's a catch. Sometimes there are bubbles which animate, but they don't give bubbles, and even when they do give bubbles, they're really stingy. Seriously, I ended up spending 1 hour on Act 3 alone. If it weren't for the level select screen, I would have given up by now. When you do beat Somari, after a pretty easy final boss that's similar to Sonic 1's final boss, you watch a pretty faithfully converted cutscene of Eggman running away, and then you get the end screen, which is just the bad ending animation from Sonic 1. I will be back. And trust me when I say this, save states are your best friend playing this game, because if you don't use them, it truly does suck, because I feel if there was more polish, Somari could actually be a good port of Sonic 1. Oh well. For the music, they actually use NES remixes of Sonic 1's tracks, though they aren't exactly good. It's not the worst thing I've heard, but some tracks just sound incomplete. Ear grating, or actually better than the original. Though that's because I'm probably just a sucker for the drums. Even then, Somari's soundtrack has this distinct style that I like, and I feel with a bit more polish, the entire soundtrack could be good. And even if you do like it, good luck trying to hear it in game because the sound effects will just constantly interrupt the music anyway. And I should probably mention this before people start yelling at me for forgetting about it, but remember how I said Somari could actually be a viable part with just some more polish? It seems that some people thought the same too, as an improvement had actually exists for Somari, making it more of a port of Sonic 1. This port fixes many of the issues Somari had, like having much better controls, the colors looking way better and more faithful to the original, and a new soundtrack. While this is great, I have a couple of personal gripes with this hack, the first one being the music. I understand why they changed it, the original soundtrack is pretty rough, as I said before, but it had this distinct style which I really like, and instead of improving on these tracks, the remake opted for generic remixes of the Sonic 1 tracks, which just sound lame in my opinion. Another complaint is how I wish they would have gone with a Somari improvement rather than a Sonic 1 NES port. I know this is incredibly nitpicky and minor, but I personally feel that due to them making the port of Sonic 1 instead of a Somari fix, it makes whatever jank is left on Somari stick out even more now. It's really hard to describe, but once you've played Somari, you'll see what I mean. That's about it for Somari. Is it any good? Of course not. but it really is an interesting game. Sure, it's a buggy mess that's really frustrating, even with save states, but the effort put here really is commendable. Keep in mind that these developers were extremely limited in terms of resources, with the composer apparently having to listen to Sonic 1's soundtrack via a phone line and then compose it from memory. It certainly does explain Green Hill Zone feeling incomplete, but that certainly gives me respect for Somari. It's definitely not a solid game, and I somewhat hate it, but that doesn't mean I can't have some sort of respect for it. Hell, if I had the funds, I'd probably even get a car for this game just for the hell of it, but those tend to cost a lot, so... Anyways, if you are interested in Somari, I would say it's worth a shot just for the hell of it, though I would recommend you use save states unless you really want a controller breaking experience. Hey, at the very least, it's more playable than Sonic 1's Game Boy Advance port. Jesus.